Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of the new vigilante action spy thriller, The Amateur, starring Oscar winner Rami Malek. It also stars Rachel Brosnahan and Lawrence Fishburne in supporting roles. And in this film, uh, Charlie, played by Rami Malek, a CIA cryptologist, or however they call him in the movie, loses his wife in a London terrorist attack. He realized his bosses will not act due to conflicting internal priorities. Having blackmailed the agency to train him as a field operative, Charlie embarks on a one-man mission to hunt down his wife's killers. This film is directed by James Hawes, and it is based on a 1981 novel of the same name. The Amateur is one of these throwback kind of 90s thrillers that we used to get back in the day. And quite honestly, me growing up in that era, I I was all in for this. The trailers and all of the promotional materials just reeked of that era of espionage, spy thrillers, action movies, and I was all for it. And then if you're gonna mix it in with modern times, with these, bombastic action sequences, I'm all for that as well. Well, this movie doesn't have the big action set pieces that you would see, most commonly done in this day and age. But this was a slow burn espionage thriller, and I appreciated it for that. Remy Malik, as I mentioned before, is the star of this film. Remy Malik is one of those actors who is just solid. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter what the film is or what the TV show is, he's solid. And I bring up TV show. A lot of people recognize him from Mr. Robot, which was on the USA Network. Never watched that show. I have never watched it, but I know multiple people who have, including my wife, who watched it from first episode to final episode. She loved the show. It wasn't that I didn't want to watch it. I just never got around to watching that show. But it looked interesting. And from what I gather, this character is pretty much what his character was in the Mr. Robot series, other than the split personality thing and this, that, and the third. But take that element out of it. It's pretty much the same guy. But Remy Malik, he won the Oscar for playing Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody, and he's just solid in everything else. I remember watching him in The Little Things. I think that's the name of the movie, with Denzel Washington and Jared Leto. I was super excited for that movie when it came out, because you have Remy Malik, Gerard Leto, or Jared Leto, and Denzel Washington in the same movie, and it fell flat. I was like, my God, this movie is not all that good. It was all right. It was all right. It wasn't a bad movie. It just wasn't as good as I was hoping, with these three powerhouse actors, three Academy Award winning actors, and it just didn't work for me. But I liked him in it. I liked all the other actors in it as well. It was really the material. But I was hoping to see him in a role, action oriented, because normally actors and actresses, once they won their Academy Award, they normally try their hand at action films. Think about Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage won the Academy Award for Leaving Las Vegas. I don't know. I blinked on it for a second. Leaving Las Vegas, and he immediately went into The Rock, and then Con Air, and then Face Off, and all these other action movies. And Angelina Jolie, she won the Academy Award for Girl Interrupted, and the next thing you know, she was Laura Croft. She was doing these action movies, and it seems to be a trend Not every actor does that, but it seems to be a trend sometimes with these actors. And I thought Remy Malik would kind of fit into that. And I really thought that this film was going to be that kind of movie as far as him performing these action sequences, these fight sequences, and all this here. It wasn't that. This movie wasn't that. This was really a espionage film, and I appreciated it for that because it had a sense of realism that allowed me to enjoy this film even more. His character was not John Wick. He wasn't Jason Bourne. He wasn't highly trained by all of the Navy SEALs, and he didn't rappel out of a helicopter from 10,000 feet in the air and all this here without a parachute. No, he was just this office guy. He was a nerd, he was a hacker of some sorts that mainly dealt with cybersecurity and whatnot. So he's not that guy. And when this incident, this event took place, this terrorist attack that took place and cost the life of his wife, it was a revenge tour. But how do I exact revenge on these men and women that did this to my wife, and I have no training, no idea on how to kill them? I can hunt them down. He's great at his job. He found out who they were, but what I'm gonna do when I get there? You know, how would I take them out? And this film does a really, really good job of explaining how he exacts revenge on these individuals as he works his way up the ladder. And I really did enjoy that. I really did. And the relationship between Remy Malek's character and his wife, who's played by Rachel Brosnahan, it's really good because it's no spoilers. Is in you notice from the trailers and from the synopsis that his wife dies pretty early on in the movie, very early on in the movie, but she does pop up, not just in flashbacks per se, but in his kind of a hallucination. He's having these visions of her. She was like the angel on his shoulder throughout this little mission, and that was a nice little touch to his character because he's a lonely guy. He's going on this mission by himself. He doesn't have anybody to rely on, and so when something happens and he's kind of shaken up and everything by it, his self-conscious is speaking to him, and the device they use for his conscious is his wife. And I thought that was a really, really good touch. The action, if you want to call it that, it was they had some action sequences in this film that was done pretty good. I liked the kind of basic approach to the action. It wasn't buildings exploding and big elaborate car chases like Bullet or something like that. No, it was a very contained type thing. Real. They kept the realism there. And this felt like a real life thing. This felt like a situation that has happened, and we're just retracing the steps of what happened. And it's all good because of the character we're following. He's not that guy. He's not a one man killing machine. He's not that guy like that. That can walk into a club where 50 armed men and he takes out all of them with one clip of his of his Beretta. But he is not that type of dude. He's more cerebral, very smart, and how he keeps everybody on their toes, and he's two steps ahead of everybody else. At least he thinks that. And that's in a big reveal that happens later on in the movie. Of course, we're not going to spoil it here, but I did like that. The thing that I didn't like about the movie was the end. And the end, even though it wasn't a bad ending, like I said, this is a realistic movie, so it kind of had a realistic ending. I didn't like it. It just did not satisfy me at all. Especially going on this journey for 2 hours with this guy. You know, you wanted a satisfying conclusion to this story, and for me personally, it wasn't satisfying. I get why they ended it the way they did, and yes, in a real world scenario, this is what it would be. This is exactly what it would be. But I didn't want real world. I was honestly craving a a bombastic conclusion to this movie, but we didn't get it, and it's fine. You know, it didn't taint the movie. You know, it didn't you know betray the story in any way. It was on par with our character that we was following, so it's not it wasn't the end of the world. I was just expecting a little more. But this it is formulaic. It's the typical tropes throughout the movie, that we get in typical spy thrillers and whatnot. So there's that element as well. You kind of see things coming, from a mile away. Somebody's going to be in this building. Somebody's going to be in the room when he opens the door that he knows, and the betrayal, the quote unquote twist that happens. It the first 5 minutes of the movie, but they waited till an hour and a half into the movie to reveal it, even though you know exactly what's going on. But overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good watch, a really, really entertaining film. To say that it's not an action packed car chase every other scene, explosion every other scene, shootout every other scene type movie, it was still entertaining, and that's all I can ask for when I walk into the theater. The Amateur gets a letter grade of a B minus. Hey, it was really good. It's a really good film. Rami Malek gives an excellent performance. Forgot to talk about that. I guess in my mind I'm thinking like it's a no-brainer. Of course, the dude is phenomenal. He gives a phenomenal performance in this film. If anything, go see the film for his performance. It was very, very good. I would love to know your thoughts of The Amateur. Did you check it out, or are you planning to check it out? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. Subscribe and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of The Amateur. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.